Thank you for coming to place a scrutiny committee this evening of the 19th of September. For webcast purposes, my name is Helen Kane and I am the chairman today. To my right is the vice chairman, Councillor Parsons, Joseph Parsons. And of course we have a plethora of officers and representatives that they will actually do from Corliss, that they will do some presentation. So I will announce them as we go along. So enjoy, we have a lovely agenda today, very interesting, so enjoy the meeting. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be recorded to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or another use by such third parties. Therefore, by entering the council chamber and using the sitting area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. Straight to the agenda, apologies for absence, please.
Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Lyon. And that's it, Chairman. And in terms of substitution, Councillor Burrows is substituting for Councillor Lyon.
Thank you, Councillor Burrows. Right, item 4, declarations of interest. Councillor Bassett.
Thank you, Chairman. I should really declare on item 8 being a non-executive director of Qualis. If it's okay with you, I'll sit here and listen and answer anything specific that you want answered, but any vote I won't take part in.
Thank you very much. Right, item 5, a notes of previous meeting, which is pages 4 to 7. We had some actions and some comments that they have already been absorbed and will be discussed in this agenda today. So therefore, if anybody is happy with it, then we can actually declare that the notes are a true image of that meeting we had. Yeah, thank you.
Chairman, a question was raised in relation to the recognition of unions by Stephen Murray, Councillor Stephen Murray, and he has asked that a statement be read out, his response be read out at the meeting. Right,
well in that case I will ask our officer here in charge today, James Warwick, to actually reply. Thank you.
So this is a statement prepared by Qualis on why they don't recognise trade unions. So we want to have an open and direct relationship with our staff, which is why we don't have a formal union recognition agreement. We will have circa 125 staff by early next year, and currently only 31% of those are on TUPE terms and conditions from EFDC. The majority are on Qualis terms and conditions, and although we support their right to have union membership and representation, this would seem disproportionate to have a full recognition agreement given the split. We have and will continue to work with the unions and have had very constructive conversations around employee relations matters. We are fully committed to continuing this constructive relationship. We undertake direct engagement through our staff engagement survey. We also have a health and safety committee which has staff representation. We have consulted on key policies with our staff, such as the driver policy. We will be setting up a staff forum in the near future to formalise our approach around key employee relation matters.
Thank you, James. Okay, right. We continue with our work programme, item 6 in the agenda, pages 8 to 9. Now, members, you will see that there are a little bit of changes to our work programme. Nothing to worry about. It is just some delays. We actually added some items. Have you had a minute to actually look at the work programme. Do you have any comments to make or any suggestions? Quite happy with as it is? Yes, as it stands, fine. Thanks a lot. So, item 7 is transfer of grounds maintenance to Qualis Property Solutions update, pages 10 to 12. Now, we had in the previous meeting, we actually asked to have frequent updates, and I'm really pleased that we continue to do so. I found that it is very easy to talk to residents and explain things when we know what is going on. So can I actually ask Mandy Thompson to actually take that report for us?
Thank you, Chair. This is a brief overview of the transfer that happened in May from the Epping Forest perspective. It's just really giving you a brief update. I'm not proposing to go through the whole report completely, but just sort of like to call out the sort of like the key highlights really. So the transfer in May, alongside the commencement of the mowing season, did present some service challenges, especially as the service transferred across with 5 vacancies. But the commitment and the effort of the staff that was involved in that transfer and the work that they've carried out since has been acknowledged and really appreciated. That there was 2 key factors that had the impact on the service at the time, and that was the extreme variance in the weather and of course the reduced staffing levels. The recruitment for ground staff has been an ongoing issue when grounds was within the council itself as well, certainly in recent years, and it remains the same for Qualis. I think currently, though they may correct me when they give their report, is that it was 7 vacancies currently. I believe there was carrying out some interviews, so hopefully that's going to be improving. I've got Phil with me, Phil Hawkins, who was the previous team manager for the South. He now carries out a contract compliance monitoring role, and with independent and joint inspections with the team manager within Qualis, and we monitor that through regular meetings. We had a meeting last week that was very successful. We're working collaboratively, working towards getting some key performance indicators to drive up performance and increase resident satisfaction. We monitor it and, as I say, on a monthly basis, and we will be reporting on a quarterly basis to Overview and Scrutiny. So prior to the transfer, the number of GM inquiries and complaints are comparable to for the current season in previous years, and a benefit of the transfer has been that a regime has been developed to monitor standards across the district and ensure acceptable standards are maintained, and where poor performance is identified, that can be addressed. Qualis have got an update report that's going to follow from this. What we was going to propose to do is that Qualis will now, Ben will now deliver the report on Qualis' behalf, and then we'll take questions on both aspects afterwards, if everybody's happy with that, Chair.
Yes, are the members okay with that? Actually, we heard about the report. If we can look at the presentation, then we can combine any questions we have. So, thank you very much for that, Mandy. Can I ask then Ben Johnson and Maria Sharples to actually do the presentation for us?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Andy, for that introduction. So we're going to just take you through a couple of key areas on the agenda. So we're just going to go through the customer satisfaction, some of the key challenges, and take you through our 4-stage plan to improving the service. So just to start with, let's just talk about customers' views. So as we reported last time, we did a customer satisfaction survey. So that was done on transfer, and what that showed was satisfaction of 42%. And you can see some of the sort of summarised comments that we've taken from that survey. So, you know, we don't understand who does what. They don't take pride in the service, quality needs to improve, and we don't understand the service standards or frequency. So all of those things we can certainly deal with. So that was some of the feedback that we got. So who does what? So I think, yeah, we do have some challenges around responsibilities in terms of the contract. So at the moment, what we do is the grass cutting, hedge maintenance, shrubs, ad hoc works and HRA. And there are other areas within the estates and rural areas that are covered by other bodies or within EFDC. So that's just you see there some pictures of that. So you can see a tree there. So, and the sort of bottom part, we wouldn't be cutting or touching the trees, and that pathway there it isn't within our contract. So that's just an example of the sort of things that we're sort of looking at the moment. So what is the sort of steps to moving that agenda forward? So we've got a 4-stage plan. So we're working very closely, as Mandy says, with the FDC staff around embedding that visual standard, which is really, really important. We're looking at scheduling. And what we're proposing and has been agreed is we're going to do a pilot around the mapping. So we're going to look at one of the larger estates and one of the rural areas together around the GIS mapping and ownership. So that's a key point in part of the sort of quality review. Phase 2 of it is we're looking in January to May. So we've inherited an ICT system, so we need to make a good assessment on that, whether that is the right solution for us moving forward. So we're going to work with that. And then subject to how the pilots proceed and, you know, the time and in-depth nature of those, that will help inform the rest of the mapping exercise, and that is subject to EFDC's priorities, which need to be agreed. Stage 3 of that, of the improvement plan, so we'll be just over a year at that point, so it's about reviewing the standards and setting the performance and KPIs as we move forward. So a good time to then review. And then the final part is around the job creation, apprenticeships, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to hand over to Maria, who's going to go into a bit more detail around those, but that's kind of the high-level view of how we work together in partnership to move things forward.
Can I interrupt you 1 second, please? No, I was going to say, do you want the lights dimmed? Yeah.
You can't turn the lights down.
Ah, I'm ever so sorry, Councillor. I really am.
It's being redone at the moment.
So sorry. I understand the reason, yes. I'm sorry for the interruption. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks, Ben.
Yes.
Yeah. So just following on from Ben, I'm going to just go into a little bit more detail around the 4-stage plan and just, you know, try and give a bit more information in terms of what that will look like from both Qualis and Epping's perspective. So we've already started a visual standard. I think we discussed that slightly when we brought this to the last committee. And this visual standard enables us to monitor the performance of our gardeners and the quality of the work that they're carrying out. So both our supervisors and our joint inspections use the same visual standard template, and they are scored, each area is scored between an A and a D, an A being exceptionally good and a D being poor. Our expectation is that everything is a B or above. So where we are doing inspections and they fall short of that, we quickly carry out reviews of that and get our gardeners back out there to rectify anything that isn't meeting a B or an A standard. And if you see the picture in the bottom right-hand corner, that is a picture of an inspection that was carried out, and that is the B standard of what we would expect our gardeners' quality of work to be. Oops, sorry. And Ben also talked a little bit about the schedule. So the schedule is really important. It's what is going to be able to share with stakeholders and customers around what we do and when we do it. So we need to be able to explain how often we'll come, what we do when we come. I think that's really important for everyone to know, that Ben showed you a picture earlier of an area that we don't do, but we need to be able to show you the bits that we do. We'll advertise that with both customers and stakeholders. And then what we really want to do is invite stakeholders to estate walkabouts, so we can go round your estates with you and discuss areas that, you know, that need a little bit more attendance maybe. Are we being efficient? Are we carrying out this piece of land? And if we're not, why not? And can we? So it's kind of gathering all of that information to be able to, and the pilot will explain a bit more about that in the pilot, but it's really about being able to explain and show you some of the work that we're doing. And then the quality piece. So obviously we carried out the tenant satisfaction in May, and we got some really valuable feedback from that. And upon that feedback, we've been able to look at some of the areas around quality. So are we being efficient? Are there other things that we can do to make ourselves more efficient? And in theory, you know, do more for the same rather than do more for more. So that's what we're looking at. We're also taking photographs of our inspections, both supervisors' inspections and joint inspections, and the next step is getting our gardeners to take photographs of their work when they've completed it, and then that can then be assessed internally by the management, so by supervisors and the area managers, to make sure that the quality is there. And it saves, obviously we talk about efficiency, but what we don't have to have is somebody going out and checking inspect every piece of work that we're doing, because actually it will be uploaded onto a system and we'll be able to monitor that from the office rather than going out and doing 100% of inspections. We're hoping to get this, well not hoping, we will get this, the photographs up onto a system by December. So the gardeners will be taking photographs of their completed works by the end of the year. And then Ben also touched on information technology. So this is really key to us. So we've inherited a software called Confirm. It's doing what we need it to do at the moment, and what we need to look at is it going to be able to do what we want it to do going forward? So the bit around efficiency and productivity is, you know, we want to be able to come back and say, this is how productive our teams are being. So uploading the photographs, for example, onto a system will be able to show us how often a gardener is going to that estate and carrying out that piece of work compared to another person, and actually what do we expect that person to do in their day? How many times do we expect them to go to that piece of that one particular area? So the IT is really key for this, for us to be able to manage the productivity and efficiency of what we're doing. And then the pilot. So we're carrying out a pilot. We started working on this already. So as Ben mentioned, we're taking two areas, one rural area and one urban area, and we're looking at it as a whole. So what does it look like? What piece of the contract is Qualis's responsibility? What's HRA, so what sits with Epping at the moment, and any of the county and the highway stuff. And what we want to be able to do on this pilot is overlap those maps to be able to see whose responsibility it is to do what, and then take ownership of that. So if we did that pathway, would we be able to do that within our current work stream in terms of the contract? If not, what would it look like? How quickly and how much resource is needed to do that mapping, to be able to understand then how long it will take to do mapping for the whole of the area. So that's really important in terms of work plans for EFDC, because in terms of resource for them. And then at the end of the year, so obviously we started the contract in May, so after the first year, we've discussed that we haven't got targets this year, so we need to look at targets for next year. So from the 1st of June onwards, that will be the opportunity to look at the specification, look at the quality and the scope, and how we can improve on that, and then what our targets will be. So we'll be able to come back by the end of, well, probably by the end of June, I would say, in terms of what our targets for the service are going to be going forward. And we'll do that with Epping, obviously, you know, we're very close, you know, working partnership with them in terms of what we think that looks like going forward. And then there is this piece around job creation. So again, it's something that we're doing daily. So obviously we're always looking at improving people's skills within our teams. But once we've done the pilot, once we've got to the end of the year and we've set our targets, we'll know in terms of what training and progression our internal team need. We'll also be able to look at other opportunities like apprenticeships and potentially back to work schemes. Mandy touched on the vacancies that came over and how we have been working towards increasing those. We've actually we've got 2 vacancies at the moment, and we've got 2 that are filled by agencies. We've done some internal progression, so we've had gardeners that have becoming lead gardeners and lead gardeners that have become supervisors. So there's already that piece around internal progression, which is really important for us because we want to keep good people and we want to make sure that they're happy working for us. And you know, it's much easier, as you well know, to be able to keep your staff and keep that system going. So then. Obviously, we'll move on to questions, so that'll be questions for us on both papers, Chair.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you.
Maria. Right, members, this is our opportunity before it goes to Cabinet to actually make sure that we, any questions we have, any recommendations, that is where the detail, you know, we need to actually make sure that we put anything that we have in our mind, because that is our opportunity. I must say one thing, that they, Ben and Maria, they have taken on board what we said in the previous meeting and about the mapping, about who does what and things like that. And I'm pleased that you have started to actually understand what the residents really want. But up to the members for any suggestions and any recommendations and questions. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to thank Maria Sharples for spending quite a considerable amount of time in Lower Shearing and Shearing a few weeks ago and going around all the sites where we need work doing, and I think some of it has actually been done. And I'm convinced by all of the written information that KPIs are in place and management is in place, that work can be carried out. But what I'm interested in is knowing where those vacancies actually are, and it would be very good to see an actual structure to see how many people you actually do have cutting the grass, because I have a sneaking suspicion that there's a very strong management team but nobody there to manage. Thank you.
Okay. Maria?
Thank you. Yes, I'll happily share a structure with you. Apologies, I haven't done it sooner. So in terms of the management structure, there is a area manager and then 2 supervisors, and then underneath are all operational members of the team. But I'll happily share that structure with you, Councillor.
If you do, and you send it by email, perhaps, then if you could send it to the officer, then the officer will be able to distribute it to all the members. Is that all right? Yeah. Councillor Allgood?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, you refer to the fact that it's what do you do, and a lot of people confuse what responsibilities you have. Obviously, a number of people complain about, let's say, alleyways where the hedges are overgrowing. It's actually riparian rights, so it'll be the owners next to it. So you probably get the phone call saying, what are you doing about the alleyway? Do you then refer them to the council for them to, let's say, talk to the owners and ask them, or do you just blanket?
No, that gets back referred to the council. So we've got, it comes into our contact centre, or it may even come into the council, so it can come into either of us. And whoever it comes into, we do that bit of investigation. So we check our confirm system to see who the land ownership is. If it isn't something that Qualis undertake, then it would get sent to Phil, and then Phil would pick it up from there.
That is a very interesting point, because a lot of people have actually planted things that they have overgrown, but because they're outside their fence, they think it's somebody else's duty to, but it is their duty and they have to be told that. Yes, Mandy.
Just to sort of reiterate that any private hedges that are privately owned would be the responsibility for county to enforce as the highway authority. It's not a function for EFDC.
Chairman, if I might, this is actually one of the reasons why the GIS project that Ben and Ria talked about is so important.
Absolutely.
Because that's what's actually going to give Qualis, the council, and hopefully by force of will, the county council, the understanding of who is actually responsible for maintaining the various parts. At the moment, as it has been for many years, the actual ownership and therefore responsibility is cloudy, to say the least.
Yes.
And that's, I think, partly what leads to some of the problems, is because people think automatically the council is responsible for this part. It may not be Qualis, it may not be the district council, it may not even be the parish council, and it might not be ECC. Yes. But at the moment, that's not clear. And until we can clear that up, we will keep struggling with that. And that's why that project is so important to the success of keeping this district somewhere that's looking nice.
That is so important. And speaking to residents, a lot of them understand. It's really very important. And the message is going through, and they understand that what the responsibilities lay, and who is responsible to cut and maintain. So, yes, I think we are winning that, to be honest with you. And of course, the members who are so close to the residents, if they can make sure that they give all this explanation, the residents to understand. Would you like to? Yeah, 1 second. Councillor Parsons was first. Yeah.
Thanks, Chairman. Now, I've been in touch with residents about, well, how the service is going, and a few have mentioned to me that the basic service, like the general grass cutting, is being done fine, but it's the more detailed thing, like that trimming and edging, that we've got the problem with. Now, do you think that's mainly the lack of staff that you've got, or do you think it's a training issue or something else?
Thank you. I think it's been a difficult start to the contract. I think we had a very wet May and the grass grew very quickly, and it was maintaining some of that. So I think there is a bit around that. I think there's also a piece around efficiency. So we talked a bit about, are we making sure that our teams are going around at the same time to cut the grass and strim at the same time, rather than strimmer coming 24 hours later? If you haven't got the resources to do that, sometimes the grass will be cut and then a few days later something would be trimmed. That's not where we need to end up. We need to end up with a full team of people that go out together and do that. So we're hoping that, well, not hoping, it will be a thing of the past.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Thank you. Councillor Barros.
Actually, I'd like to talk about pavements and weeds. Apparently at the moment, I believe that the council cuts, takes out the weeds or sprays them or whatever, but it does that with the authority of the county council. Is that still to be the case with Qualis?
Yeah, my understanding is, I'm not part of the waste team, but having spoken to Dave Marsh about this at some length, my understanding is that county pay EFDC for 2 sprays per year for certain areas, and it's not across the district. It's areas where it's high footfall, mainly around the town centres. There's some key areas, but it's not completely across the district, and it's just the 2 sprays.
Do you want to come back?
So are we saying then that will continue, so that Qualis will do that cleaning or spraying? Who's going to do it?
I think that's something that we can probably have a look at as part of this, who does what and whether we can incorporate that. But obviously that includes having a discussion with county and with the waste team as well. But that certainly would be on the table.
Councillor Bedford.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is really where we have historically in the past we've had private hedges and areas where grass has grown over or hedges have grown out of people's gardens onto public footpaths and onto alleyways, etc. In the past, we've had a facility where we could write to the landowner, tell them that the intrusion onto the public footpath, give them the opportunity to clear it up. If they don't clear it up, then we do the work and we can recharge it back to them. Is that facility still going to be available to Qualis? And I'm just wondering, we do expect grass to grow. It does every year, funny enough, and the grass cutting machines seem to be getting, either the blades are getting higher and the grass is getting longer, or the machines need sharpening, because when they cut the grass around my particular area, and I know it was Qualis that did it because I phoned up and complained, and the man came back out and looked at it and they came back again and recut it. But the machinery, it's almost like, I know you're working to a timetable, I know you've got an awful lot of the district to cut, but perhaps sharpening up and perhaps work as a team of 2 or 3 as opposed to one man on a mow with his headphones on, roaring round, hitting the postman's bin, that sort of thing. Perhaps we could look at a gang of people as opposed to one person coming out and targeting an area.
Maria?
Thank you. Yeah, so on the question around, well, not question, but the statement around the grass cutting, you're absolutely right. And I think, you know, it was a similar question that Councillor over there had in terms of is making sure that we're efficient. So making sure that we've got the resources there. So we are looking at resources. We are looking at the schedule, and as part of the schedule is understanding who goes where, when, and how many, and who with. So it might be that that schedule changes slightly, because it might be that we need more people in one area than the other. So it is something we're looking at as part of the scheduling. Thank you. I'll touch on, Mandy might want to comment, but in terms of the piece around hedges, that would generally sit with Epping County Council, and I think that relationship, if I'm right, would be with Epping County Council and the homeowner.
You okay? Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm not aware that we would have cut previously and then recharged the owners. I think what would have happened is the county, the highways inspector would have gone out and they would issue enforcement notices, but and if it's like a tenanted property, say a housing where it's a leaseholder, something like that, then housing would probably follow that up with the tenants as part of their tenancy agreement. But so happy to sort of like have a chat with the local highways inspector regarding their enforcement or lack of enforcement around overgrown hedges. Quite happily can do that through maybe the sort of like the highways panel as well. And we've also got the local highway rangers that can do some work, but they obviously can't touch private hedges.
Would you like to come back? Yes, thanks for that. Could you switch on your...
Come on. Thanks for that, Mandy. I really appreciate that. It is a very difficult area, and as has already been mentioned, the GIS mapping system will help us in the future. But I think the key point here is we need a bit of background work between all the different partners that do all the different bits of work so that we can get a common goal and try and draw those together. And if counties say, well, we do the spraying twice a year, but we're going to let you do it, then let's get that into the contract. Let's get that sorted out, because we need to start taking ownership of what's going on in the district. It seems to be there's a lot of people with a lot of fingers in a lot of different pies, and it's not working. I know it's early days, and we're going to give, obviously, there'll be some leeway on how it comes out and how it works in the end. I just feel that sometimes you phone up and you ask to speak to someone at EFDC and say, we've got a problem with the grass. Got to phone Qualis. You phone Qualis, they say it's not us, it's County Council. I spend more time doing the phone calls than if we, you know, hopefully we won't have to do that when we get the GIS system up and running and everything's accounted for. We should be able to say, right, that's that person's responsibility. We'll phone them up for you, and it should work, but it's going to take a lot of effort.
Yeah, just to come back on that point, completely acknowledge your points there, and it's something that we discussed last week as a case in point, and we are working towards that common goal, that common aim. So hopefully going forward you will start to see that improvement, so it'll just be that one phone call rather than getting, you know, passed from different agencies.
Well, thank you very much. I must say that Yeah, that is a very good recommendation, actually, that can come out of this meeting, and perhaps we can take that on board, like you did before, with any recommendations. Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of observations, if I may. The GIS mapping obviously is key to this, or is a key component to the success of this. You mentioned 2 sprays per year in various sites. If we can make sure that those various sites are part of that GIS mapping, that would be good. I'm assuming this is going to be relying on EFDC staff to actually do the mapping exercise. So we'd need some assurances we've got the staff available to do that within our contracting workforce. That would be good to know. A direct question, if I may, does Qualis and stroke EFDC actually adhere to no mow may, or is it a fiction of my imagination?
Well, who would like to answer this? Mandy, would you like to start?
That was an initiative, because I'll get my words out, that was started by Chigwell Parish Council, and that was it last year, Phil?
I think it was last
year.
year.
It last year. I'm not. We would well. It would be for Qualis to make that decision, but previously we would come to an agreement with what we would leave and what we wouldn't leave, because obviously you have to appreciate that, you know, if sight lines, sort of road safety, and then also the cost of cutting when you do go back to cutting it and collecting can be quite heavy. So I think you have to assess the areas where you're going to implement that, and I think going forward it's something that could be considered as part of the programme of work.
Maria?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we've said is that we will assess any requests on an individual basis, depending on what that request is and where it is, and whether there's any reason for us to do no mow may, it's a bit of a mouthful, or if we'd have to decline for a reason, but we'd assess it on an individual basis and requests.
Would you like to come back?
Yeah, just to make it clear, I'm not advocating for no mow may. I'd be more than happy for you to mow all the way through May. That would be wonderful. The other quick one I had was the estate walkabouts with Qualis and perhaps the FTC officers. When they're organised, it'd be really helpful if we could make sure that the ward councillors are notified and invited along.
Yes, so by October, Councillor, you'll all be invited. So we've got the schedule of the joint walkabouts, and we will get you all invited.
So that's another action point that we can find out if you do follow. Councillor Allgood.
Yes, thank you, Chair. You mentioned that there's actually 4 vacancies, but 2 are actually with agency staffs at the moment. So it was 7 last time we met, so we've gained 3. I'm just wondering, are we advertising these posts currently, and what's wrong with the people? Why aren't they taking up the jobs?
So yes, they're all advertised. We've got various ways of advertising. So what we have done in the past is we've taken on agency staff permanently. So when we've got vacancies, often it's quicker, especially in the time of year of spring, summertime, where we need the resources. So we'll take on agencies, and then we'll offer permanent positions, which we've done, which is how we filled some of the previous vacancies. We also advertise on all the job boards, so online, and we had some really good intake on that. So we actually got some people that have already started on Qualis contracts that have come through job boards and through the agency. It's tricky. I mean, there are certain things, that criteria that people need to be able to drive. They have to have a little bit of experience, and filling 7 vacancies is quite tricky. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any reason necessarily for people not wanting to be gardeners. I just think it's quite a specialised role within the industry.
Right, members. Any more? Councillor Philip.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to welcome the fact that I've been on the council for a long time now, and I think this is the first time that we've actually scrutinised grounds maintenance. So if nothing else, one of the benefits of putting grounds maintenance out to Collis is that we've actually got visibility as a council of exactly what's going on. And I think that's one of the things that's been really positive. It's actually identified one of the major issues, which is this lack of the GIS system, actually knowing who's responsible for what. And that's brought it into clear view. And I think it gives us the best opportunity to actually take this forward and improve things. Not knowing where we were starting from, I don't think Collis realised that we didn't know where we were starting on when we took it over. Now that we do, it gives us a chance to actually work towards getting the right thing. And I think that's a very positive step.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. And I think what we started, it shows the transparency that people really need to see, and that we scrutinise, and we have all the questions, and we can actually say, we can see what you've done and what changes you made for the better. But thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your presentation, and it is so nice to see you from time to time, and we will continue to do so. Right. Members, we continue with our agenda, and this is item 9, Public Space Protection Order, Dog Control. This is so close to my heart, to be honest with you, because when I became a councillor, we had a lot of powers to see when the dogs were loose, they were running or loose, or they were, attacking other dogs. We had some powers. Then all of a sudden I found out that we had no powers, or what happened, I don't know. And I am, with everything that we hear these days about dogs, attacking, and it is very close to my heart, and I'm so pleased that we have this report. And of course, it is pages 27 to 30. And if I may ask Chris Smith or Mandy, sorry, Mandy. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Chair, I'm going to introduce the report. Any questions and things, I've got my army of support officers here that I'm sure will help me out if I can't answer them.
Which is Mandy, is Chris and Melissa. 4, yeah.
So the background to this report today is that there was existing dog control orders, but in 2017, under the new Anti-Social Behaviour Crime and Policing Act, they were converted into public space protection orders. Those orders were in place for 3 years, and they have now expired, hence bringing the paper today to seeking Cabinet approval to go out and reconsult on the adoption of the PSPO across the district. Currently, we deal with dog fouling and dog-related matters through the issuing community protection warnings and subsequently community protection notices. It's quite a lengthy process. It isn't a swift remedy. By introducing the public space protection order for dog control means that we can deal with any issues swiftly through the issue of a fixed penalty notice. We do need to go out and consult with the public as part of the process, and the report is seeking permission to go out and consult for a period of 28 days. And where there is a majority in favour of the dog control order, the PSPO, is to introduce it forthwith from the beginning of January without the need to come back for further approval. I'm sure you've all seen the recent events regarding dog control and why this is quite important to get this across the line. The PSPO will last for 3 years, and we can look to extend that for a further 3 years once it's implemented. We can also amend it at any time during that process, should we choose to do so. What we're proposing to do is to go out and consult for 28 days from the 16th of October, finishing on the 17th of November, and it will be published on the EFDC website, as well as with direct consultation with all stakeholders, including town and parish councils, the police, fire and crime Commissioner's Office, and also the Kennel Club and housing providers. Happy to take any questions.
To be honest, I will be very surprised if you get less than 98%, in favour. People are having little doggies are actually petrified to take them sometimes. And we have some lovely parks and they are traumatised. Members, Councillor Allgood.
Just curious, does this actually cover the Epping Forest regarding, because that's obviously London corporate that owns that, so do we include that?
Yes, so the PSPO will be a blanket across the district, and with the Corporation of London land, we authorise their constables to be able to issue fixed penalty notices for contraventions on their land.
Members, any other questions, any comments? Councillor Bassett.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very pleased to see this because I always get complaints, people saying, shall we say, they've picked up the dog mess and just dropped it in my garden for me, which is very nice of them. Or they seem to use my bin for it all and they just leave it sitting on top expecting me to put it in my bin. And there's an awful lot of that going round, and I think people have just got a bit careless. They might pick it up, but they do just, what do they do with it when they picked it up? Because what happened with dog bins, I think now you can put it in any waste bin, if I'm correct. Yeah. But I think there is not the knowledge out there for people to realise that they can do that. They think they must still put it in a specified dog bin. Is that going to be told that they can do that?
Mandy?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely correct. Now it's perfectly acceptable for dog waste to be put into an ordinary litter bin. That's why you see far fewer dedicated dog fouling bins now. Yes, we can certainly make sure that that is more widely known as part of the consultation that we undertake and the publication that we do with the Public Space Protection Order and the comms that could go onto the website. Happy to do that.
That would be very useful, actually, and something that we can already tell our residents as well. Yeah, Councillor Parson.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is really a sensible report. I can't really complain about it. It's going to have a positive impact, hopefully. The only thing I have a question on is the fine level. It's a £100 fixed penalty. Is that set by government, or could the council look at raising that fine for a repeat offender, for example?
So the limits are set by government. Obviously, we will always keep them in line with what the government says. We can have a lower fine if we chose to, but that we do tend to sit at the top level for that.
I think we were talking about higher, especially if people repeatedly,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you had a repeat offender for something like that, we would still have the avenue of the community protection notices and warnings through that aspect, which might give us a greater level of fine. However, there is moves afoot, I believe, that they government are looking to raise the fixed penalty notices, but it hasn't come to pass yet. But obviously we'll keep an eye on that and we'll bring that back.
Thank you very much. Councillor Allgood.
Should explain, my wife's a dog walker, so some of these are sort of quite pertinent. And I'm looking through this where it says, allow swift action to be taken against those who do not pick up after their dog. Now, I totally agree with all of this, but I think as people who live in Epping Forest, all of this comes down to enforcement. And there's the problem, because we don't have any enforcement that covers this. So it's all right saying we're going to do all these things, but are we increasing our numbers of enforcement officers? Are we going to do mass advertising?
You're absolutely right. It always comes down to enforcement and resources. What we rely on is where you get the regular offender that does it repeatedly. We rely on members of the public to report that into the team so that we can do targeted patrols where there is the problem and hopefully catch the offenders and then bring them to account. but yes, there is no... The enforcement is done within the resources of the team. But as I say, we would do targeted enforcement and we need the public intelligence for that.
Councillor Payne? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to come back? Okay.
I was just going to raise the same point, actually, because our recreation area, I had a complaint, and off I went with my scraper and shovel and put it all in the bin, and the grass was cut the next day, and by that evening it was back again. And how do you enforce it? Because it's impossible, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dog fouling historically has always been very difficult to enforce, because I think with the public perception in today's world, people tend to do it, try to do it very discreetly and don't do it quite as openly as what they would have done previously. So it is just relying on that intelligence to be able to target specific offenders and bring them to account.
Councillor Olcott, yeah.
Sorry, last one then. And it's got this for allowing reasonable checks to be carried out with dog walkers to ensure they have a suitable receptacle to pick up dog faeces. My own dog, I can probably take 5 bags and suddenly, if you caught me at the end of it, I might not have enough bags even. So I always think that's a bit unreasonable. If people made the effort but been caught out, how do you prove that, disprove it, or say that they're repeat offenders?
Come on, Chris, we can actually hear you talking as well.
Do you want to?
Enforcement is always going to be tricky. I think there's going to be a common sense approach to this. So obviously, if you're walking back home and you've got 4 bags in your hand, we know full well you're taking steps to remedy what's going on. But it is more for the fact that you might have someone that goes out to start their walk with nothing in the first place. So they're the sort of people we want to educate and then obviously enforce against if it continues.
Right. Councillor Kane?
Thank you. Somebody else has already made the point about enforcement, and of course it is key. Part of it, of course, is also awareness. Now, it was mentioned about the dog excrement bins no longer being required and you can use a regular bin. Perhaps we could, put some stickers on all of our waste bins to say, yes, you can put dog poo in here, and avoid a £100 fixed penalty notice. So we've got a bit of awareness about, yes, you can use the bins, and yes, you run the threat of a £100 fixed penalty if you don't use the bins.
Very good recommendation, I think.
I think that's a really good point, and it's something that I'll pick up with James and the waste team. Thank you.
Very good recommendation. Thank you for your input. Right, shall we? Well, thank you very much for that report. We're looking forward to actually being in place, and I'm sure the consultation will be fine. Yeah, I can vote at least 20 times if I can. We go to item 10, Public Space Protection Order, Debden Broadway, pages 31 to 36, and I take it that Mandy will take that one. With, of course, Melissa helping out.
Thank you, Chair. So this report it follows the same sort of lines as the previous one regarding the PSPO and the relevant consultation. It will be seeking approval from Cabinet to go out for a 28-day consultation for the PSPO in the Debden Broadway area. The Broadway has been highlighted as an area of focus for the Home Office ASB hotspot patrols within the district. The hotspots have been introduced as a result of the Prime Minister's Antisocial Behaviour Action Plan. It's proposed to introduce the PSPO, providing a safe environment for residents, workers and the community when frequenting the Broadway. There's part of the report details some of the evidence that has been supplied. The with this particular one, it's a very specific area that you can see from the maps within the report, and it will focus on loitering by persons in council housing blocks and estates, any persons in possession of open vessels of alcohol, any person fly posting, and any person using a skateboard, bicycle, scooter, skates, or any other self-propelled wheeled vehicle, in such a manner as to cause damage to property or to cause harm or intimidation, harassment and distress to or annoyance to other residents. The hotspot patrols are already taking place as part of the initiative in the Debden area, and they're proving to be very, very successful. Officers are engaging with residents and businesses as part of this process, and this PSPO will complement the work of those officers in the area by allowing them again to take swift enforcement action against people that are behaving in a way to cause such alarm and distress to residents and the businesses. I'm happy to take any questions on that, and as I say, we've got Melissa, who is the antisocial behaviour team manager, here as well with more expert knowledge than I have. Thank you.
Well, we all have seen quite an increase, actually, on antisocial behaviour, and that is not only in Debden, but in other areas as well. It's so a shame, to be honest. Members, any questions, any comments? Councillor Bassett.
Thank you. Yes. Do we have any identity of where the people are coming from? Are they local residents? I know the local college is very keen on making sure none of their students get up to anything untoward. Are you in fact speaking with them and trying to identify if there is anyone?
Yes, thank you. We do work really closely with the college. They help us identify any possible suspects. In terms of the people that are causing the issues at the moment, obviously we haven't got the powers to enforce, so in terms of gaining their details, it isn't something we've been able to do at the moment. But from speaking to local residents and local businesses, it's a mix. It's some people that are local to the area, it's some people coming in from the area. It's not all the college children. That's perception is that it is the children that go to the college. There is a small section of them that are causing issues, but it's kind of a mixture of everything. But I think if we get the public space protection order in place, it will give us the powers to ask for details of those that are in breach of it. So we'll have a better idea then.
Yes, I do work with the college myself, and I didn't know they take a zero tolerance to any of this that goes on.
Councillor Parsons.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, it is good that the area is trying to be improved. I was alerted a few days ago by a resident who's experiencing similar issues to described here in the Broadway, in the Waltham Abbey Market Square and Abbey Gardens, with repeated drug use and youth nuisance. So I wasn't aware of it until last week. Is there scope, if this is successful, to have other schemes in different areas where we've got other repeated issues?
Yeah, there definitely is scope. We have the power to powers to put it in place, but what I would say is we need the evidence. We've got a lot of evidence for the Broadway. There's been a lot of incidents, as you can see in the report. So what I would encourage residents to do is to report it to us, so they can do that, and we can open an antisocial behaviour investigation. And if we've got the evidence on our systems, then that really does help us support an application for a public space protection order. I think the only thing that I do want to mention is that we need to be realistic with the enforcement. I think it was a point that I think it was Councillor Allgood raised in terms of having the officers to actually enforce. So we need to be mindful of that, because at the moment, if we've just got it in this area in the Broadway, we can make an impact, we can make a difference. So yeah, thank you.
What we have actually encouraged residents to do is report it to the police as well. I didn't realise that they could actually phone the council.
Yep, so we have powers under the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act to investigate antisocial behaviour complaints. So we have a duty to do that. So they can do that via our website. We have the team, we've got 4 community safety investigators, as well as myself. So yeah, the team do investigate antisocial behaviour complaints. Obviously, it's low-level antisocial behaviour. The more the criminal matters, and high-level antisocial behaviour is the police. But we do have powers to deal with antisocial behaviour.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bassett?
So, 'cause if my memory serves me here, we used to use Park Guard as well to help with the enforcement. Do we still do it?
We did used to use park guards. I believe we haven't used them for about 18 months. Obviously, there's a cost in terms of using them. So, yeah, not something that we use currently, but maybe something we can review in the future should we need to.
I know of some parishes and town councils that they do use park guard, paying themselves, you know, if they have some open spaces that they had a lot of antisocial behaviour as well. So that is something that contributes as well, in a different tier of authority. Any other members? No? Councillor Kane?
No, thank you. I have to say I'm slightly less keen on this one. I'm struggling to see how this will work in terms of the enforcement. Our officers won't be able to demand names and addresses. If their youngsters are visiting the area, they're down in the shops or they've been to the local school. I'm not sure how a fixed penalty notice would ever be issued against any of the offenders here. If we haven't got collaboration with the police or a police officer alongside us, we don't have the powers to demand the information. And frankly, the youngsters today will just say do one and move on. I just don't see it working.
Melissa, could you?
So we do have powers to ask for names and address if they're acting in an antisocial manner. So that's all officers are CSAS accredited, which is a police accreditation scheme. So all officers have that accreditation. So we do have powers. If they don't give us their details, then it's a arrestable offence. So I take a point. The police aren't going to be with us every time we're out there, but we do have that option to contact the police should they refuse. We've also, within the area of the Broad Job, we've got really good CCTV system. Officers will have body cams, so we can do, if they don't give it to us, there's means of us finding out retrospectively if needs be.
That's great. That's a lot more hopeful. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Members? Well, thank you very much for the report. I think it's very positive, actually. And, you know, we have seen a lot of antisocial behaviour, and it's about time we do something about it. Right. Thank you very much for attending today. Item 11, Essex Draft Waste Strategy, pages 37 to 87, and that is James Warwick.
Thank you. Yeah, the report that you have in front of you is to make people aware of the draft waste strategy for Essex and the consultation. I think it mentions in the report that the consultation was subject to Essex Cabinet approval. That was Cabinet approval from Essex County Council was given on Tuesday afternoon. So the consultation went live, went live last Wednesday. Had an update meeting with Essex County Council on Monday. I think today, on Monday, 207 responses had been received across the county. But outlined in the report, the Waste Strategy for Essex sets out the vision and the objectives of the Essex Waste Partnership, which consists of 12 district, boroughs, cities and county council in Essex. It provides a framework of how we will manage waste that is produced by homes and businesses in the county for the next 30 years. The draft strategy has been developed collectively by all 13 councils of the Essex Waste Partnership, and the draft strategy is a consultative document. No decisions have been made in terms of collections, frequencies, or anything like that, they will all be determined locally by individual authorities. But the Essex Waste Partnership wishes to seek the views of residents before developing the final strategy. So the strategy, as I said, it went live last Wednesday. It will be available for 10 weeks. It's available online and paper copies are available. There are several engagement events throughout the county. There isn't one in every district. So for the West, I think the closest one is in Harlow at Great Parndon Library, but I can circulate the dates of those. Essentially, the Waste Partnership in Essex, they want to gain feedback on what's proposed. There are ambitions within that strategy and targets. They are deliberately challenging targets, such as the aim is to reuse, recycle or compost at least 70% of waste by 2030. As a district, we're currently at 60%, so that is a big leap, especially if in the future food and garden is separated, then that will make a difference to our recycling rate. So there are, it is highly ambitious, but it has been put together collectively. What I can do also is provide a link to the consultation to Laura to include in the minutes, so people there. Once the findings of the consultation have been analysed by Essex and the Essex Waste Partnership, a final copy of the strategy will be produced. That will be then considered for adoption by Essex County Council. Once that's approved, it will then need to go through our cabinet as well for approval as a member of that Essex Waste Partnership. Happy to take any questions.
So sometimes it echoes, that's why I switched it off. Thank you. This is, the attached report is a draft from Essex County. They have opened consultation and they would like our opinion, but really we cannot scrutinise something like that until the consultation is finished, this been adopted, and then it comes to Epping, because is it my logic okay on this? Am I?
Yeah, no, that's right. So although Essex are leading on it, as mentioned, all of the local authorities are partners in this and have played a role in developing the strategy. So we're a key partner in this. So yeah, the report's not here to be scrutinised. It's really to raise awareness of the public consultation, to ask members to complete the public consultation, and also be aware if any residents raise any issues or asks any questions with it. So Tom and his team, the comms team, have been fully briefed, so they're working with Essex as well. They've got a comms pact. We've briefed the customer contact team. There's frequently asked questions as well around the strategy in case residents do contact us. But yeah, it's
so
mainly just to know.
Yeah, to participate in the consultation, really, and consider the report. Councillor, all good?
Thank you. Can you do, on page 39, top, waste disposal, we aim to send zero waste to landfill by 2030, but by 2035, we're going to send no more than 10% of waste to landfill. So I appreciate one's a name, one's it's going to happen, but it seems to be contradicting that we're almost aiming to do nothing, get zero by 2030, but then we've given up by 2035 and said it's 10%. Doesn't make sense. We do it on the bit. On top of the page, 39, waste disposal.
Chairman, there's a similar anomaly at the bottom of page 38. The aims and the we wills seem to be backwards.
Yes, I think that this is just a mistake. Yeah, the other way around.
I will double check that and get back to you on
But
those
it's
points.
a draft.
Yeah.
It's a draft, really. Yeah.
Chairman, if you look at the top of page 45, it does say the targets are things we are committed to, and they are the government's national targets, and then the 3 stars say we would like to go beyond these targets, so that is what their aspiration is.
Yes. Yes, of course. So we really need is to participate to the consultation, read the report, and see what happens, because it will come back here, isn't it? Any other comments or questions? Sorry, Councillor Allgood.
I'm very keen on this. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm quite keen on this because I appreciate these things cost money, but I think the situation is getting rather out of hand at the moment. So I had a discussion with Mr. Marsh regarding there's a lot of plastic out there that says recycled, even if it's shopping bags, etc., etc. But we actually don't take them. So the companies are coming up with a recycled logo, and we're actually chucking them straight in landfill. Now, I appreciate there's a cost implication and stuff like that, but I think we need to be starting to say it doesn't matter the costs. We need to be starting to do this, because if we're trying to target our landfill, how much we do, we can't be saying to the people, there's recyclable stuff out there and just chuck it in your landfill. That's point one. In regards to, we were talking earlier about the dog bins, and I think this is a 2-part, I saved it for this bit, is I understand the reason why we reduced the number of dog bins, because we can put it in the other bins. However, we're not giving dog owners the opportunity, because the normal waste bins are so far apart that they won't carry their dog bags far enough. Whereas before, where there was a lot more of them, we would encourage them to put their dog waste in the bin. So it's a bit of a 2-way cycle on that one. I'll let you come back to that.
Councillor.
Yeah, it's unfortunately the councillor wasn't at Cabinet last night when I was talking about the financial situation of the council. I admire his reckless disregard of cost. Unfortunately, for those of us who live in the real world, we have to factor cost in. It is a major consideration to all we do. We are already in a contract with BIFA which covers what we are able to, what they will collect for us. We are obviously in the process of working towards a replacement for that, and we would obviously look at what is most achievable in there, but it is down to how much it costs in the end. We have to balance the budget, because there isn't the possibility of just funding things for nothing. I also find it somewhat amusing to say litter bins are too far apart for dog walkers to take their rubbish to. Surely the aim of dog walking is that you walk with your dog. You have a responsibility to carry your bags, even though, and I would agree with the councillor, sometimes they can be quite aromatic, if I can put it that way. It is something you have to do, and it is a degree of responsibility that people have to have, and that's perhaps part of the problem, is that we're seeing places where people have less of a feeling corporate responsibility or community responsibility, and feel that it's all right to not do things. The one I particularly find difficult on the dog waste part is the people who walk through Epping Forest, collect their dog waste in a plastic bag and then hang it from one of the trees. That just seems to me completely the wrong way around.
Okay. Right. So I think that is it. Can we actually request, James, that any update can go into the bulletin? Yep. So perhaps all the members, find out what's going on with the consultation in this draft report. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay, well, members, item 12, dates for future meetings. The next meeting will be held at 7 p.m. on the 9th of January 2024. So thank you very much for everyone for coming in tonight, and thank you for your input and your suggestions and recommendations. And have a good evening. I'll close this meeting
Chairman, surely since your next meeting is January, this must be the last meeting before Christmas, so you need to wish people a happy Christmas.
I don't think so. It's too early. It is September after all. So I'm closing the meeting at 8:15 exactly.